morning, everyone. I'm Richard Parr, and you are watching Sportuccino. We are live on Tuesday, the 28th of February, 2017. So great to have you watching our program on Facebook, YouTube, and on Periscope. If you've got any thoughts related to any of the top sports stories of the day, please get involved. So let's begin the day with our morning sports headlines. Leicester beat Liverpool 3-1 in the English Premier League in their first game after sacking Claudio Ranieri as manager. Roger Federer has won his first match since becoming Australian Open champion, beating Benoit Paire in Dubai. Steph Curry misses 11 three-point attempts, a career low, in Golden State's 119-108 win against Philadelphia. And the father of undefeated MMA star Khabib Nurmagomedov has been denied a US visa ahead of UFC 209. Just before we get into all of that, I want to tell you about 99 Designs. 99 Designs helped design our cool logo right there, the Sportuccino logo. And perhaps if you want a great logo, you could try them out as well. What they do is they offer competitions to talented freelancers around the world, and you get to pick which freelancers you like, and then you get to work with them until you get a product that you're really, really happy with. And if you're not happy with it, they will give you your money back. Please go and check them out. I'll put a link to them on Facebook and on YouTube. If you do click through the link, you will be helping support Sportuccino. Now, what did you make of Leicester City last night? 3-1 winners over Liverpool in their first game in the post-Ranieri era. Craig Shakespeare, the interim manager, taking over after they sacked Ranieri on Thursday, the Italian who had guided them to winning the Premier League title, the 5,000 to 1 odds winners of the Premier League, and 3-1 winners last night. Jamie Vardy back with the goal, scoring twice, an absolute cracker from Danny Drinkwater. Philippe Coutinho with Liverpool's consolation goal, albeit I don't think it's ever a consolation goal. I think that's a terrible phrase. But he did get one back for them. Leicester 3-1 winners at home at the King Power, their first win in the Premier League in 2017. They're also still in the Champions League. Don't forget they're 2-1 down from the first leg against Sevilla. I think that's what upset me the most about Ranieri being sacked, is that they were still in that competition. If you are watching on Periscope or on Facebook, would love for you to get involved in the conversation on what you made of Leicester's performance last night. I'll be checking your messages throughout the show on Facebook. But we're also very active on Twitter. Let's have a look at what's on our Twitter page today. And that is, should Craig Shakespeare be given the job of Leicester City manager on a permanent basis? Yes or no? Should Craig Shakespeare be given the job of Leicester City manager on a permanent basis? Of course, when the news came out about Ranieri losing his job, some of the people who were being discussed for the role were former Leicester City striker Roberto Mancini. Frank de Boer's name got mentioned. There was also talk about Nigel Pearson returning, Gary Rowett as well. Not so clear right now who it could be, but it would be interesting to see if Craig Shakespeare keeps the role after that impressive win over Liverpool on Monday night. Also on Monday night, I was actually at the SJA Awards, the Sports Journalists Association Awards. A fantastic night with some of the peers and fantastic people in the sports journalism industry in the UK. Particular praise goes to Daniel Taylor, who won the Football Writer of the Year award and the Scoop of the Year award from The Guardian for his work in sexual abuse in football and his stories there. Absolutely fantastic. Well done to him. And for more on this, I'm delighted to say that joining me on the programme is one of the judges and committee members of the Sports Journalism Association. He's also been on our show before, a friend of the show. Delighted to say that Phil Barker joins me now live on Sportuccino. Good morning, Phil. How is your head this morning?
Very well, because I didn't touch any alcohol. That's the secret. One of the things we were rather worried about was that somebody would rip open an envelope and say the winner is La La Land. After what happened at the Oscars the previous night when they actually got the main winner wrong. Fortunately, we were in the very safe hands of Jim Rosenthal, who guided our ceremony through in quite magnificent fashion and got everybody to their last trains on time, which was quite something. But it was a wonderful evening, wasn't it? And we had it at the Westminster Plaza, which is just down from the Houses of Parliament, if you know London. It's one of the newer hotels in London. It was the first time we've had it there, and everybody seemed to have a fantastic time. And as you say, Dan Taylor's expose of abuse in football, sexual abuse in football, was one of the buzzwords of the evening. When Andy Woodward came on to speak, he was the man who'd blown the whistle very courageously. He came on to speak. I don't think there was a dry eye in the house, and there was a standing ovation for him. He spoke very movingly, very measured, and it was a great moment to be there. One of the great things last night was that we were also able to support the Royal Marsden Cancer charity. Quite a few members of the journalism community have been, like anybody else in the world, afflicted with cancer over the years, so it was good to be able to support them. But a really great evening, and you think of the world of sports journalism as quite a cutthroat sort of industry, but actually you get to know that people go around the world together, and you do become quite good friends with the people you're working with and competing against, as it were. But there's still a friendship and a respect there, which is great to see.
Yeah, I think that was one of the key things around. I think it was the Rugby Award where they were really a tight group of 6 guys who clearly travelled the world together, and it was really nice for that award as well. You, of course, you were on the stage giving 2 awards. Which were they, Phil?
Well, I gave the award for the best sport live broadcast, which went to TalkSport for their coverage of Euro 2016. They produced a show, and in fact a whole range of programming, which was full of emotion, mixed emotions, I must say, with 2016, because you had the sheer joy of Wales with their magnificent progress towards the semi-finals of Euro 2016. And on the flip side, you had the hooliganism, which afflicted some of England's matches, particularly against Russia, and also their abject exit at the hands of Iceland when the England team seemed scarcely to have seen a football before, let alone know what to do with it. And their coverage, the passion of that shone through. And TalkSport have, they've worked very, very hard on slightly reduced resources compared with some of the behemoths of sports broadcasting. And over the years, they've managed to make their way with a very idiosyncratic way of doing sport. They've not gone the way that other people have, and a lot of the ideas that they've come up with, other people have followed. It's a bit like the scenario with Sky Sports, who came into sports broadcasting, getting on now, 1992. That's best part of 20 odd years ago. Actually, it's more than 20 odd years. It's almost a quarter of a century ago. And a lot of the ideas they came up with have now been adopted as industry standards. So you get a few fresh ideas. It's quite funny, actually. I was reminded because next month will be the 40th anniversary since Kerry Packer started World Series cricket. Same thing could apply. Before that, we didn't have stump microphones. We didn't have floodlights. We didn't have brilliant TV coverage from both ends. And that all came in with him. Notionally a rebel circus, and yet some of the ideas they came up with absolutely revolutionized the way we now see sport and take it for granted. I often go and see some of these film nights, and you see the old black and white film from, say, the 1930s or 1940s or even 50s and 60s, and people say, oh gosh, that wasn't very good. And it's because we've become so accustomed to how good television sport is now that we look back at the earlier years and say, well, that wasn't up to much. And the sport was just as good. It's just it wasn't covered as well because they didn't have the wherewithal to do so.
And he also presented the Cricket Writer of the Year, Phil?
Absolutely. The Cricket Writer of the Year was Michael Atherton, former England captain, of course, a very long-serving England captain, who is one of that rare breed who can write about cricket with the great intelligence. I've even got what did they say? Special balance of authority. One of his pieces was masterly. I can't disagree with that. And then you hear him on Sky Sports. I mean, he started on the radio and then went to Sky Sports. And for somebody to actually go and cross the two banners is not that easy to do. There are some radio presenters who find it difficult to transfer to TV, like vice versa. And Michael Atherton, he also won an award for a fantastic documentary, which I recommend you seek out if you haven't seen it. He went and saw Imran Khan, the great Pakistani cricketer who became a politician, out in Pakistan. So it wasn't exactly a sinecure, because personal safety, security in the area that he was in was always in the back of your mind. And some of his questions were very probing, very thoughtful. And so it was a great thrill to meet him and present him with an award, very well deserved. And you always tend to turn to his columns. So this is the case with a lot of these guys, that you listen to what they've got to say, because they've met the people, they know who is who in the sporting world, and over the years you start to build up a relationship, a body of knowledge, and someone like Michael Atherton certainly brings his skill from the cricket field to the commentary box. We all remember that great confrontation with Alan Donald in the England-South Africa series. It was in 1998 when Donald peppered him, and he showed great courage on the field, and he shows great courage and great reason in writing and broadcasting about the game.
Yeah, you speak about someone who's made the transition. There was also an award for Paul Kelso for Sky News for his work there. Obviously, he's gone from newspapers into the TV broadcast world. What did you make of that, Phil?
Well, one of the great joys of being co-chairman of the broadcast committee, which I've been lucky to be enough that they've asked me to do for the last couple of years, is that you get to see all the entries. I should mention my co-chairman, so he doesn't go anonymous, is the great Mike Ingham, who was the doyen of BBC radio sports commentators for many years. But you get to see all these things. And Paul's entry, there was one part which they didn't show on the screens last night, where he was in the middle of a riot in the middle of France last year, when it was all kicking off during the problems with hooliganism. And there he was, as calm as you like. It was as if he was taking a Sunday afternoon stroll. Obviously, there was passion in his voice, but very unflappable, and telling the story as it was. He's a very, very impressive operator, and fully deserving of the award, because it is a difficult transition to make when you've been only having to worry about the words that you write in the newspaper. One of my abiding memories of him is from the Olympics in 2012, when they handed over the flame. And if you remember, when the flame was handed over to London, the heavens opened in Athens. You didn't expect it at that time of year. And there was Paul helping a colleague from the BBC by they were swapping jackets, because the other man had to go out on TV camera, and his jacket was sodden by the rain. And Paul had the charity to offer his jacket. Now, of course, the boot is on the other foot, and he'd be the one wearing the jacket. But a bit like the Masters ceremony, really. But Paul did really well, particularly with that stuff from Euro 2016, because when the bottles and the Molotov cocktail type things, the cans, they're flying around, and it gets very, very ugly confrontation between the police and the hooligans, that is not easy to keep your cool, and he did.
I did like the piece to camera they showed of Richard Conway with the nodding horse in the background. I found that very funny and a lovely little moment there. So Phil, overall,
do you know what? There's an adage: never work with children or animals, and it still holds good.
So Phil, overall, what was your highlight of the night, do you think?
I think Andy Woodward coming out onto the stage to speak about the sexual abuse, because okay, it happened many years ago, but the memories, and even the emotion of talking about it for him was so raw and so painful still. And to show the courage to actually come forward, and he made the point that he was on the point of saying, "Oh, let's forget it all," and then somewhere along the line, something inside him said, "No, we've got to do this." And he told the reporter, Dan, that there could be hundreds. The count is now 560 odd and rising, and it just shows how bad the problem has been in sport. I mean, it's the sports version. I mean, we've had it with the various church organisations and various other public organisations over the years, and a light has been shone onto a murky area now, and the world is the better for it because of his courage, and of course because of the reporter who did the thing. Just one honourable mention there in terms of investigative reporting to David Conn of The Guardian, who just kept hammering away at that Hillsborough story and was highly commended last night for his work on the final attempt, the final decision to give some kind of justice to those families of the 96 who died at Hillsborough. And David was one of those who was persistently delving into the records and making it clear that the police had lied on that occasion. So, again, there's some wonderful journalism out there, and it's a real privilege actually to just sit there in the front row and experience and talk to some of these people, because the experiences they have really do enlighten your life and do actually.
Well, I think we may have lost Phil there on Sportuccino. It was really good to get his thoughts there on the Sports Journalism Association Awards. Very, very interesting chat there. A really enjoyable evening. I really had a great time there at Park Plaza in Westminster in London. Saw Big Ben on my way out. That was pretty cool. All right, let's move on. Every single weekday morning we have a brand new guest related to sport. And yesterday we were talking about Italy's tactics against England's in the Six Nations. England eventually won, but Italy were leading 10-5 at half-time. And that's because they didn't commit to the breakdown. They didn't get involved in the ruck. And we were speaking to Cameron Petrie, the rugby commentator, about this. And he explained that it actually wasn't Italy who'd first come up with this idea. Have a listen to this.
Previously on Sportuccino.
The Chiefs did this in Super Rugby for the New Zealand franchise team 2 years ago, and everyone's not going to commit any men to the breakdown, then we'll just pick it up and run through the middle. And I don't know how it took England, one of the second best side in the world rugby rankings, 33 minutes to sort of get their heads around to then do, which was I found quite amazing that this sort of very simple tactic sort of just bewildered England.
And it was on our Twitter page at Sportuccino that we were discussing Italy's tactics via the poll. Let's have a look at the result of that poll. It was the question, were Italy's tactics against England in the Rugby Six Nations innovative or unsporting? And 73% of you think it was innovative. 27% of you say it was unsporting. Eddie Jones was not happy with that. Neither was the England player George Ford. They weren't very impressed with the tactics of Italy, albeit, as we mentioned on the YouTube page yesterday, I think a lot of people think if Eddie Jones had come up with that idea, he would have considered it innovative. Now, we are busy on our Snapchat page every single morning. All you've got to do is go to @Sportuccino, and it's normally where I set a goal every single weekday morning. Let's have a look at what's on our Snapchat page today. Good morning, Snapchatters. No toothpaste on my face this morning. Again, not much of a goal of the day, more of what is on the agenda today, and that is to go to the Amex to see Brighton versus Newcastle. It's first versus second at the top of the championship. Will both of these sides be in the Premier League next season? We'll have to wait and find out. Go on, send me your goal of the day. Yeah, so it is Brighton versus Newcastle in the top of the championship on Tuesday night at the American Express Community Stadium, the Amex as it's known to everyone else in the world. We've got some odds here. from Sky Bet, Brighton is 6-4. The draw is 11-5, while Newcastle are 21-10 away. That makes Brighton the favourites, of course. Newcastle beat Brighton earlier this season at St James's Park. Newcastle have been not performing brilliantly in the last few weeks, and perhaps that's because Dwight Gale is injured. It looks like he won't be playing in Tuesday's game against Brighton. He's got 20 goals this season, the former Crystal Palace striker. That means who will play up front for Newcastle will be a decision that Rafael Benitez has to make tonight. Will he go with Mitrovic? Will he go with Ayoze Perez? It's going to be very interesting who he decides to play up front. He's also got Daryl Murphy as well, the former Ipswich player. Who do you think he should play up front in this crucial game at the top of the Championship? These two teams could both be in the English Premier League next season. We'll have to wait and see what happens there. Little statistic here though. Newcastle have not scored in their previous 2 attempts at the Amex. Their only 2 appearances at the Amex. So could Brighton keep another clean sheet? They kept a clean sheet, of course, in Saturday's game against Reading with that 3-0 victory where they looked really good. One injury concern for Brighton today is that Sebastian Poglignoli who should be fit after coming off late against Reading, so they should be able to keep their same back four for this game against Newcastle. Cracking game. It is also live on Sky if you're in the UK. One other big game tonight going on in Europe is the first game, the first leg of the semi-final of the Coppa Italia tie between Juventus and Napoli. Juve, of course, 2-0 winners over Empoli at the weekend in Serie A, while Napoli were unable to get a win against Atalanta. Juve look like they're going to keep Neto in goal, resting Buffon. It looked like Juve also rested some players at the weekend. Chiellini was on the bench. You'd expect him to return. A few players rested for this big game. What's your prediction for that match? Get involved on Periscope. Get involved on Facebook. Would love to hear from you about the prediction between Brighton versus Newcastle and the match between Juventus and Napoli in the Coppa Italia. All right, we've nearly come towards the end of another episode of Sportuccino. Just before we go, let's get a quick reminder of today's sports headlines. Leicester beat Liverpool 3-1 in the English Premier League in their first game after sacking Claudio Ranieri as manager. Roger Federer has won his first match since becoming Australian Open champion, beating Benoit Paire in Dubai. Steph Curry misses 11 three-point attempts, a career low, in Golden State's 119-108 win against Philadelphia. And the father of undefeated MMA star Khabib Nurmagomedov has been denied a US visa ahead of UFC 209. So those are today's headlines. Yeah, one thing to mention there is about the father of Khabib Nurmagomedov, who is going to be fighting for the UFC Interim Lightweight Championship against Tony Ferguson at UFC 209 on Saturday in Las Vegas. It looks like his father won't be able to attend. Nurmagomedov is a devout Muslim from Dagestan in Russia, and it looks like he will not be allowed a US visa to be in his son's corner. What do you think of that? Get involved on the Facebook page and on the Periscope page, and we can continue the conversation on Twitter. All right, we will be back tomorrow on Sportuccino at 8 GMT. I've been Richard Parr. I hope you have a wonderful pancake day, everybody. Take care. Have a great day.